Finally, after all these years, in this video, I will reveal my personal vehicle. You have asked me to do this, and in this video we will begin with the vehicles I have bought and owned and I've been driven so far, and also the vehicles I grew up with. Super interesting. Then the current vehicle I own, what I love about it, it's already here behind me, but also what problems I faced with this vehicle. This will be super interesting. Join us here now. Well, you see my first car with this car bed actually, and yeah, I really loved it until I outgrew it. Then the BMW E30 of my grandfather and grandmother, really such a beautiful timeless car. And yeah, I always had a favor for cats and dogs, of course, since ever. And one of the cars that actually had the most impact on me was the W123, which we had in the family. My father drove it. It was actually this red color, not this coupe I'm standing here next to it, but it was the sedan, the 4-door or 5-door version. I recently also had a chance to drive it. This was a very special experience in a white color and also in the estate form. Definitely had a lot of joy in that, and it's still one of my favorite classic vehicles. Then we had a couple of Ford Fiestas, and here is also my lovely dog I grew up with, still love her. And then, actually, surprisingly, my path went into the two-wheel direction. I drove motocross and had a couple of Suzuki RMs, so 125 two-strokes. Yeah, they were really screaming all the way on the track, and that was so much fun. Did it together with my brother, and we also bought this Opel Movano. It was actually a white transporter. The photos next to the Autogefuehl, the 2CV of my mother, also of course a classic. And then it was time to get my first own vehicle, starting with a small one here. That was actually a Smart 4. It was based on the Mitsubishi Colt at that time. I chose it because it was quite efficient, and I liked the two-color look on the exterior and the interior. Well, today probably I wouldn't take it in this red one. But hey, it was a cool color combo also to my Beta Motard, this supermoto machine. So at least these two were really fitting together. And I've been a personal fan of the brand of Jaguar for many, many years. And at some point I could also realize my dream to own actually one. And I started with the Jaguar XF. It was a 2.2 liter diesel. It was the most affordable one. And I really love that vehicle, especially the interior is really lovely. However, that one blew up after just a few thousand kilometers. The engine just came out with the white smoke. Got a replacement engine, yeah, but then ultimately I also sold it. At least the engine was brand new, so I didn't make much loss on it. And then I actually got my very, very dream vehicle, a Jaguar XK as convertible. I've always been a big convertible fan, and this one had the 5-liter V8 naturally aspirated engine. Such a great engine, and yeah, whereas a lot of the Jaguars and also the Land Rovers are pretty unreliable, that one, the 5-liter V8, is undestroyable, naturally aspirated. Such a high displacement, not too many horsepower out of it, and it was such an awesome engine. Yeah, it's just that the interior of the XK, of course, was really outdated, and it is not the best car to drive, honestly, although from the exterior, I feel it's still one of the most beautiful cars ever built, together, of course, with its predecessor, the XK8. And now it's time to reveal the current vehicle. Of course, it's in Thomas Blue. Who would have thought it is in Thomas Blue, right? It's Sepang Blue in this case here. And would you have known that this is the vehicle I'm driving? This is here an Audi S5 convertible. It's a model year of 2018. I actually bought it used, and this is also big time story later on when I'm talking about the problems I've had so far with this vehicle. But let us start with the cool things. First of all, most obviously the design. I think it's a timeless design. The S design here, still with the S badge. The newer Audi S models don't have the badge in the front. And I think also the bright grille, in contrast then to the vehicle color, is really lovely. And I think also in the side profile, this vehicle here is designed with few design lines, and therefore I think it's also a very consistent and timeless design. 19-inch wheels, and I also recently renewed my tires to a Bridgestone Potenza Sport, and this has been really a very great choice because this tire here had great results in dry braking test. At the same time also performed well in these wet circle tests, you know, when at which speed the car loses traction then and so on. So both sides actually were well proven, and I've been driving them quite a lot now, and actually I have more comfort and sportiness in comparison to the tires I had before. This was a very interesting finding. What's also especially with this configuration is that I have the grey roof here. I think it adds another interesting contrast on the exterior. Then towards the rear, now the silver contrast in the lower part, also really fat aspect. That's, you know, I really like that they just did it in this very way. And from the exterior, I'm still super happy. Which other cars were I considering? Of course, the BMW 4 Series convertible was another choice, but then at that point, there weren't any used vehicles which didn't have animal skin leather seats on the German market. Now it's actually standard if you configure one new with the BMW 4 Series convertible, but that wasn't a real choice back then. And I was also considering a BMW Z4. I asked BMW if they could give me a US spec which has the leatherette seats, but it was also not possible at that point. Yeah, then I was thinking used vehicle, and then I bought this one here with a 2018 year actually. And the thing is that if I would have leased this one here new, it would have actually been even more expensive because there were really bad leasing offers for this one here. So yeah, that was like the logic behind the decision. So now, yeah, in about, so I'm owning it now for about 2 years, and there has been a significant loss in value. So leasing would have been like more than 1,000 euros per month. It was, I feel, just too expensive. Then I bought it used for around 50,000 euros. Meanwhile, a model year of this one, well, some that have been running more kilometers, but you can get like about 35,000. So there has been a significant loss then of around 15 to 20K in these 2 years. But then again, leasing would have been more expensive, and then I would have even owned nothing of that vehicle. And that way I still own it. But of course, most obviously with these vehicles, you do lose a lot of money, that's clear. But now I think the loss will stop. And also, if you think about this vehicle will not have a successor. So the all-new Audi A5, which is also the all-new Audi A4, it will not come as coupé nor as convertible, and so this one will be the last Audi convertible basically. And I hope this will probably even bring the value up. Interior, very interesting. I can show you something of that, but I think it's easier when we open the roof. And this is also a very nice and easy process right here. You can also, when the battery is full enough, of course, don't have to put on the engine for that. Always nice to see that roof process here. What I find also quite cool is there is like an AC mode when the roof is closed and an AC mode when the roof is open. And it always works with last mode command. So the thing is then, let's lower the windows. So I have one setting for when the roof is closed, and the car is saving that setting, and another setting when the roof is open, because then I usually don't have the AC on. I just have like the fan to my feet to keep the feet cold. And this is the thing about this vehicle, about this 2018 model year. New cars all tend to reset everything you set from the, you know, when you start up. And here there also weren't so many regulations and so on. Yes, the start-stop, this one is already reset when you start up the vehicle. I usually deactivate the start-stop because it's not that good for the engine. But here then, for example, climate mode, last setting is still kept. There's no speed limit warning and so on. This vehicle, you can still feel the vehicle, and it has these manual elements, you know. For example, and now we also can talk about what's wrong with today's cars. Here on the steering wheel, I have real buttons, real jogs here, right side for the volume. Steering wheel is a great size, it's really thin. I like thin steering wheels. And here we also come to the things I have actually customized. But before that, most obviously you see the interior here. These have these blue interior deco elements. This is also a special setup. You won't find it too often on the market. And most of the time, it does not match the exterior color. So this is a very rare example where it does exactly match the exterior color. And that's why I also like it, just to have something more spiced up in the interior, actually. Digital instruments, most obviously. And you see now it has been running 41,000 kilometers. I bought it with around 30,000 kilometers. Also one of the reasons why I'm very disappointed of this vehicle when I'm later on talking about the faults I already had with this vehicle. Some more important things, maybe Leah can come around to give you like this interior overview then completely, because it looks pretty cool. First of all, the things I customized. So the seats did have the microfiber, the Alcantara so far. Not exactly sure if it was built by Alcantara here in this model year, but it's a microfiber. It feels really nice, that's cool. And I also had here the shifting lever, then done in microfiber. Then here the armrest, this is also microfiber. So this and this was customized. So this is really Alcantara, by the way. I ordered that at the customizer. And also here the steering wheel. So this one, it already looked quite shabby actually. Then had it wrapped here in the Alcantara, and I just love that. It has a great grip, and I can also not confirm that it easily gets greasy or something like that. So far, great result. It looks like new. And here, look at that. Listen to that. Great clicking sounds. My favorite AC unit of all time. Just awesome, like this galvanized metal knurling around that. It's so intuitive and easy to use. And why is not everyone doing it that way, you know? And also the buttons around, they just give you this very satisfactory feedback, like you have a, you know, like a stereo high quality from the 70s or 80s or something like that. So simple, easy, high quality feeling. Also here, when I activate the steering wheel heating, it stays activated until I deactivate it. And that also means I'm driving in wintertime, I activate the steering wheel heating, I shut down the vehicle, I restart again, and it's on. And also very important to me, smartphone, cable connection here, and it just works. Then I have my Apple CarPlay, I can use my Google Maps, and that's everything I need. And it never crashes, it's reliable. All these new infotainment systems, which are blown up basically as for the functionality, sometimes slow, you have software failures, everything. This one here, and the cable connection is super reliable, and also the phone doesn't overheat. Then if you do like inductive charging and wireless connections, some wireless connections are not reliable, then the smartphone is overheating because of the inductive charging pads, then you need the pads to be cooled again, then it's not efficient in charging. So for me, the best solution is cable, the connection is stable, that's it. This is also the pre-facelift version, so there's no touchscreen, this is no touch. And Leah always says like, oh, come on, Thomas, really, what have you bought there? But I love it because the screen stays clean. And
there are always fingerprints from me.
Yeah, and then Leah sometimes, right, it's not a touchscreen. And I like, I have to clean it again. That's the only problems we have in the marriage, though. So, luckily. But then the thing is really with the phone, that's really all I need. And I never do anything on the screen because I put my GPS destination before, then I plug it in, yeah, and that's it. And I play my music here via Apple CarPlay, and that's really all I need. Under the hood, there's a 3-liter V6, 350 horsepower, and around 5 seconds in the acceleration figure, more than enough power you need. And classic quattro all-wheel drive setup, 30% in the front, 60% in the rear, so slight rear-wheel bias, just what I need. Let's drive it. Let's start driving, and most obviously with open top. So this works up to 50 kilometers an hour, so like almost 30 miles an hour. I'd rather do it here when it's a little bit slower. Here it's like 20 now, because otherwise you get this wind in your face. And also really practical that we have just one button here to lower all windows at once when it's really, really hot outside, or if you want just a little bit more protection or better sound quality while driving, then you put all the 4 windows up. And here this big normal wind deflector there, this does such a great job. Then sport mode, here I just here press it once here to go to the sport mode, that's it. And the 6-cylinder always has a great sound. Yeah, and even the police would enjoy that. Yeah, and that's the thing about the 3-liter 6-cylinder. I have it here on the individual mode, and I've tuned the suspension to most comfort, but the exhaust note to, let's say, the most natural one, means open. And this one, as you remember, this is the pre-facelift version without the particle filter, and therefore here this one still gives you a very nice sound. And it's not too much, you don't annoy anyone or so on because it's too loud, but still you have this real feedback, you know, and that's the real stuff you hear, you know. It's like, yeah, that's really cool. Also when you shift down and so on, really beautiful. And even when the roof is closed, it's just giving you this very calm, sonorous, low frequency noise feeling. And this vehicle does a good job also when you drive it slowly over some potholes and so on. And these Bridgestone tires actually helped a lot in that. So I wouldn't have imagined. I thought I'd just get a new set of tires and so on. And of course they're good, and you know they build great tires. But I wouldn't have expected that it is actually more comfortable now with the new tires, with the same rims. You know, so that is quite positive finding. And also the precision of the steering has increased. So I feel that when I'm taking really tight corners, that it just follows what I'm doing a little bit better. So yeah, very good aspect here with these new tires. Of course, when you get new tires, because they're new, they always perform better in a way, but these ones here are especially good. So I wouldn't have expected such a positive effect here. What I love most about this vehicle in driving is the steering input, because it doesn't have a dead zone area, so every command is very finely transported. That's what I really like. And well, in open top, I usually have it here on low and on the feet, the AC. But it's just so easy to change something of the AC while driving, and I don't even have to look at it. I can just look straight and know, this is warmer and this is colder. And I have just asked myself many times, what have we done in the automotive industry? It was there. Like the best solution for everyone was just there. And it has a nice clicking sound. And everyone can control it. Everyone knows what to do with it. And we got rid of it in all new cars. Like, why? So to all manufacturers, to all the engineers, product managers, everyone watching, this is how you do a climate unit. I said it in the interior part as well, but I can just stress it again while driving because it's so easy to do that while driving. Cool thing here also about this cabriolet, I can drive a little.
Like that.
Yeah. Woo! Yeah. I can go to the motorway and show you something more particular, because it's not only about city and countryside driving. This is here together also, for example, with the BMW 4 Series and like a Mercedes E-Class Coupe. This is also one of the convertibles you can actually drive with open top on the motorway and you're not getting annoyed. This is also something special. Suspension-wise, I have to say, this adaptive sport suspension which I have in here does a good job. However, it's not the most comfortable one. So when you compare it with more modern adaptive suspensions, for example of sedans or sometimes in SUVs, it is an S5 and it's still set on the sporty note. So let's take it that way, there are more comfortable suspensions out there, but the overall driving and handling and so on is just superb. You know, it's a very balanced feeling all the time. You can go to the ESMA, or you can also here use the manual shifting pedals, and it's just beautiful. I'm not sure how much you can pick up there on camera, but yeah, this is beautiful. And this is also still a reason to go for this 3-liter 6-cylinder. You drive it with around 10 liters on 100 kilometers, 23 mpg US, 28 mpg UK, which is not the most efficient 6-cylinder, although I'm driving it most of the time rather calmly. So the BMW inline 6-cylinder would, for example, be more efficient. This one here, even if you drive it rather conservatively, you cannot bring it that much lower. That's the thing, you know. But overall, the coolest thing here overall is you can drive it sporty in corners. It has good acceleration, around 5 seconds to 1 kilometers an hour, 62 miles an hour. And at the same time, you have enough comfort also for longer journeys. And here, like 80 kilometers an hour, 50 miles an hour, it doesn't get too loud in here. And you can see here my hair is hardly moving, you know, just a little bit. And there you can see like how calm it stays here in this interior, especially with a large wind deflector.
Yay, so much fun.
This shouldn't be missing, yeah. Of course, we're always enjoying it together, and yeah, driving with open top, it's just the best thing for vehicles. And now the things I find disappointing with this vehicle. First of all, the paint quality, especially on the hood. So here you can see this comes fresh from the cleaner, you know. So and you see here like these kind of like burnt insects dirt. This is the first problem. You can hardly get that off, actually, and but more so to the paint quality is, I'm not sure if you can see it on camera, I already had like some of the spots here filled in. So this is like from the normal like small stones that fly on the road and so on. And the paint is not that thick and also not resistant. So you get just some small stones and the paint is done in the front. So actually at this point, I could have the whole hood repainted, you know, how it looks there. So this is very disappointing as for the quality, as for this respect. And then I also had like more history with this vehicle. So I bought it used from an official Audi dealer, and there was also a used car warranty on this vehicle. Yeah, this like the scratches on the paint, for them that was actually like no reason to give any discount on the car as for that. And then the problems actually started stacking up, which I would have never imagined, because if you still spend like a lot of money for a used car, which has a used car warranty and which had like a list price of almost 100,000 euros, you expect that the next 3 years or so, nothing would happen. Now to the most fiercest problem here for the vehicle. So in the front, there's the wishbone, there are actually two, and I think this were the upper ones. So at some point I went to my local workshop and asked, yeah, can you change the tires? And by the way, when you put on the tires, can you maybe check to balance everything out? Because I feel some kind of an imbalance, but maybe it's like just the imbalance from the small weights on the tires or something like that. And a day later, my friend at the workshop called me and said, like, it's not about the tires actually. So at your wishbone, and remember, this car had been running 30,000 kilometers, which is like nothing. So in the wishbone, there was like this rubber around. It was completely corroded. So you could actually put a screwdriver in there and go up and down. So that was basically done. And then you had actually two possibilities. So the thing is that this doesn't go to the used car warranty because it's like a piece that gets used, and that is kind of like expelled from that. And then I could go to the official Audi dealer and maybe could have made some like special rule that they maybe only calculate the work and not the part of it. But it's anyway cheaper when I do it from an external workshop, and which is also just next door and more practical for me. And then they actually replaced the whole wishbone. Now I have better ones, fresh ones. And I also asked Audi about that, like, how can it be? How can there be such a corrosion after 30,000 kilometers? And they told me actually, yes, they saw a problem with that model up to 2018. Then starting 2019, they used a different part where this problem does not exist. Yeah, but I have a 2018 one. There's no use for me, you know. But so yeah, that was kind of disappointing, because then I had like, together with some like brake pads and then all the work that's been done, and then some other service, and then I pay like 2,000 euros or something like that for a basically new vehicle. And then you think about, how can this happen quality-wise for a 100,000 euro list price car, you know? So that was one of the most disappointing things. And even more problems, can't make that up actually. So this was even before the wishbone thing. So at some point I was pressing the seat heating and there was no reaction. Here, that's how it's supposed to be. And this is also here the neck heater, for example. Yeah, it's not working here at the moment because the engine is not running, but seat heating you can also just do with ignition. There's someone racing in the parking lot. So these outside buttons were not working. And then I have this OBD unit myself, which I can put in there in the left lower part, and then I can read the error message of the vehicle. And then I wanted to find out what about these broken buttons and so on. And also when I was on the phone with someone, sometimes they say like, I can't really understand you. And the thing is here that there's one microphone up there. So there is the microphone when the roof is closed, and when the roof is up, this vehicle uses the seatbelt microphone, which is an awesome idea. You know, there are actually 3 for different heights of drivers. The quality here is always way better. So people can understand me better when I'm driving with open top than with closed top. So I wonder, why wouldn't you also use this better microphone when the roof is closed, and then this one I don't get it. Yeah. And then there is also the thing, when you have your phone connection via Bluetooth, standard Bluetooth, it's louder from the microphone input. When you have it via Apple CarPlay, it's not loud enough for people to talk to. But then you can only adjust the microphone volume when you have your phone connected to Bluetooth and not via Apple CarPlay, which is ridiculous. So what I have to do then is I connect my phone once again with Bluetooth, and also you cannot only adjust the microphone volume when you have connected with Bluetooth and while a call is running. So what did I do? Connected with Bluetooth, called Leah on her phone. While that, I adjusted the volume, but over adjusted the volume, so it's too loud in the normal Bluetooth setting, then cancelled, threw away the Bluetooth setting here on my phone, connected it with a cable with the Apple CarPlay again, and then the too loud microphone was okay in the setting from the loudness in the Apple CarPlay thing. Because before that, I was talking with Apple CarPlay, no one could really understand me. Now then it was loud enough. But then it came to a point where there was no voice, and I can't hear anything from you. And it's like, what is going on? Together with this climate unit that was broken, but just on the outside parts. The inside parts were working, the outside parts weren't working. Then I got myself this OBD unit, plugged it in, and want to check out what is the car actually saying as for these error messages. Then you can read all the error messages. And then, the car was like barely 3 years old and 30,000 kilometers on the clock. And then the errors read, light sensor broken, climate unit broken, and here the seatbelt microphone broken. Yeah, obviously that was like the confirmation for what I have experienced. And then I thought, wait, I have this used car warranty, which is, for these things, not for things like brakes or something, which I used, by time anyway, but everything else that could possibly break and so on. So then I went to the official Audi dealer, and there the next experience started, because then they said, oh wait, you bought that car at another Audi dealer, which is a little bit more far away. So we don't want to do that. I was like, this used car warranty is eligible in the whole Europe, and you're telling me that's a problem when the dealer is somewhere else in Germany? Yeah, maybe then we need a confirmation from the dealer, and you have to pay for the analysis. And it's like, I know what the problem is. I can show the results. I already did the analysis myself. That's not the problem. This is not working, and these are the problems confirmed. Yeah, but they want to do the same analysis, and they analyze everything, the errors, and they have to prepay for that. And I only get the money back if the warranty says it's part of the warranty. And I was like, this can't be happening, And then I was, phoning the dealer where I bought the vehicle, and said there's this problem. What can we do? And he said yeah, this shouldn't be a problem. What's the problem with the other dealer there? And I was sitting there, literally, and I said can't you just call your dealer colleague and say confirm that I bought the car there? Obviously, it was the case. And he's like, no, I won't do that. And it's like, shall I use my phone to call the other dealer and then give my phone to you? And he said, yeah, sure, why not? And I was like, are you kidding me? Once again, a car that has a list price of 100,000 euros, is about 3 years old, has 30,000 kilometers on the clock, and just 2 months ago, I bought it for 50,000 euros, and including an extensive Europe-wide used car warranty. And I was like, what is happening here? Then the two dealers actually, were on the phone. Though, the dealer where I bought the car tried to do some supporting, and then actually the dealer where I was wanted to have a written confirmation from them that they would take all the costs for the analysis if the warranty wouldn't be happening. Absolutely crazy. And this is like a customer experience where I personally say I would never buy any Audi again. And this is not because someone from the factory did a mistake, because the dealer experience is incredibly bad. It's like, what is happening here? But it's also often the reason of the individual person you meet there. Yeah, really, really, really strange. Then after a while, I get everything going. And they said, yeah, the other dealer would take the cost if the warranty wouldn't say, of course, that warranty pays for that. What was clear by the rules and so on, you know. But then they did the analysis, something else popped up. So then like this dealer called me and said like, yeah, we like analyzed this, we found the mistakes like you said, we've ripped everything apart. But now the warranty organization says, which is not Audi, it's like separate insurance company, wait a minute, we need everything on video and you show us that a button is not working and what is like broken, and then we confirm the payment. But at that point in the workshop, they already had ripped everything apart and were about to like want to begin the exchange. So they actually had to put back the parts, activate the function to show that it's not absolutely ridiculous, and then had to like send individual videos to the insurance company, which like, seriously. So for that reason, the car was in the workshop like for a couple of weeks. Yeah, and then I was like, this can't be happening. This really can't be happening. But then, after all, the insurance company paid for that. I had to pay nothing. So this was then all done, and I had to have now a new AC unit, a new light sensor, and also a new seatbelt microphone. So they are actually pretty much brand new. And then the thing with the wishbone happened. So at this point, I was like, okay, hopefully this is done. Then the thing with the wishbone came. And now another chapter is being opened in that experience. So I had then everything done like from my external workshop, which are, you know, really great guys, and they actually search for parts which are better than the original parts. But then the next problem came. I was on the Autobahn, everything was fixed, and I think like, finally I can enjoy my car again. And I can show it to you when the engine is running. I was driving straight on the motorway, and then the steering wheel looked like this, and I was like, seriously, what is this, you know? I went back to the workshop, and then we tried to find out the problem about that, and the problem was that this is like the progressive sport steering. It's like an option, and that one can only be recoded at an official Audi dealer. If the external workshop wants to do that, they need to get clearance from the police that they are eligible to do that. Ridiculous, you know, in the effort to do that. And the problem is that because of these wishbone problems, the car automatically adapts to the broken, or like worn out wishbone. So it's not completely broken, well, worn out. So before it was straight, and when the wishbone were worn out, the steering wheel automatically aligned that it was straight again. The problem now is just when you make then the fresh wishbones, then the steering just thinks in the old setup and thinks it's like this. So then it has to be reset, reprogrammed for the new wishbones, you know, and that the workshop couldn't do that actually. Then I had to go to the official Audi dealer again with that problem and paid like, I think 150 euros or something for like one press of the button to align my steering wheel to the position again. Just that the guys who did that didn't really pay attention to what they were doing, and then instead of the steering wheel was straight, like not straight like this, it went into the other direction like this. Not that extreme anymore, but still not straight. And I was thinking like, now I'm ready to crash this car against the wall, without me in, obviously. But then, luckily, the next time I went to the Audi dealer, I had someone pretty nice there. So it's always also, you know, like about the people you meet there. And he was actually realizing the problem and saying like, yeah, this can't be happening. And then they took it again. I didn't have to pay anything extra again. And then they showed me in the documentation that this time, because the only thing they do is actually they put the steering wheel straight and then have to press a button, recalibrate. That's it basically. And then I saw the documentation that they were putting like the ruler here and then like, you know, the balance bar and so on. So that time they really paid attention to what they were doing. And then it was done. I could get my vehicle, and now I have a straight steering when I'm going straight on the motorway. Yeah, and then there was another thing I didn't mention at first. So I don't smoke, and I was buying this car actually kind of unseen because it was a very stressful time for me. I didn't have time there, but I just want to have this vehicle, and only that one dealer that was a little bit more far away had this very vehicle in that color combination. And then I was talking to them. There was the used car warranty on it. Everything looked great. And then I was asking for it. Has anyone ever smoked in that vehicle? And they was like, no, never, definitely not. There was just also one pre-owner. Then they were checking, going with their own nose, everything, no problem. I got the vehicle at home, sat in the vehicle, and like, okay, someone smoked in there, quite obviously. But then, of course, it was like too much effort to just, because of that, give the vehicle back again. But I had to do something against the smell. And I think actually no one actually smoked in the vehicle, but was a smoker and then sat in the vehicle, because it's not like that everything was full of ash or something. And I tried to find the reason for that, and the main reason was like the cover, like the top from the inside. But then I found searched something like special like detergents and some, and I found like a special spray like with enzymes against smoke fume, and that one actually worked. It's not perfect today, but most people probably wouldn't smell it anymore. I still do a little bit, but just when the car is closed and has been standing for a while and so on. But still another disappointing thing. So I love this vehicle. It's still one of the greatest convertibles you can buy, honestly. And so many things are just right about this car. The whole user interface, the drivability, the steering. I love this car. But the experience from buying it and the problems I had with it is absolutely ridiculous. And for that reason, I would never buy it again, honestly. So this is my very... but then I think, owning it is great. That's the problem, like the experience I had. I hope others have a different experience with it. But next time probably I would not buy an Audi for that reason. And if you maybe get a new lease or something, that might be something different, because when you have some problems then it's basically included. But would I buy a used Audi at this point with this experience? Not again. Lease a new Audi if you're happy with that and get a good leasing offer, and maybe get it as a company vehicle. Why not? And for me it's really painful, because I love Audi as a brand and the vehicles. And for example, I have some other favorite, like an Audi A7 is also one of my favorite vehicles overall. And I'm still thinking about, should I maybe... The used car prices for an Audi A7 or Audi A6 in Germany are really good, actually, really attractive. So I've been thinking about getting one all the time. And there's always the thing that with this experience, I mean, it could have been different, Maybe if I would get an used A7 now, I can be lucky and nothing will happen, But I will think twice after this experience so far. So this has been like a long explanation. I hope you appreciate all the honesty. And I still love the vehicle. I'm not sure if I'm gonna keep it like forever or not. I'm not. I mean, on the one hand, I think like I'll keep it forever, because everything has been customized now for me. Now this vehicle is absolutely perfect. If someone would buy it from me now, it's totally fine. Everything has been done. Hardly anything that can go wrong from this point on. But up to this point, too much went wrong, actually.